Welcome to Card Central 365, powered by Gray Bar here on STL Sports Central. All content provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Claibs, presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. It is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. The Cardinals win by a slim margin of just one run against the Rockies last night, but a much-needed win for this team as they look to continue their great homestand.
Yeah, it was a good win. Obviously, we're at the point where we talked about it yesterday. You have to sweep Colorado, and the Cardinals had multiple opportunities to blow that game out last night. They didn't, and they almost wasted a great pitching performance from Miles Mikolas, but Brendan Donovan coming through in the eighth inning, that was the key. And Stefan, I thought the bigger key was the fact that Ollie did not use Kyle Leahy on Sunday night when it looked like he was going to, when you had the righty-lefty matchups and he had JoJo on the mound, and he passed on him. And, Leahy hadn't pitched since August 6th. And for him to come in last night and give him more than 2 innings of work, I thought was a difference because he wouldn't have been able to use him back-to-back with that length of baseball that he would have faced the night before and then coming right back the following day.
You could look at this version of the Cardinals as completely different than the team that St. Louis started out with. And that's expected for most teams. But this St. Louis team is full of young players. And in the case of Ollie Marmol, he's playing chess and not checkers. He's finding ways to help this team win and managing a bullpen that has one lefty in it. I got to give him credit where it's due. He's done a really nice job over the last 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's been the key to this team all year long, the way he's managed the bullpen. In some cases, he's been short. In some cases, some guys haven't been able to perform. But in most cases, he puts them in a position where they can succeed. And the fact that, when you're starting pitching doesn't give you enough innings, that really puts the pressure on the bullpen. And for the most part, they've done a reasonably good job. But last night, Mikolas was good. He was very good. And he had a no-hitter going through the 6th inning. And, the error came back to haunt him. They scored another run. But I thought he gave them just what they needed. And they were able to come back and reward not him, but certainly Kyle Leahy with the win.
And Leahy has been pitching extremely well. He had a bit of a lull in his season over a 3 or 4 week stretch where you just didn't see him missing as many bats. He started to turn the corner a little bit. And I wonder if he's doing a bit of an audition for maybe entering the starting rotation next year for St. Louis.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, he can enter it this year. And I know that's kind of far-fetched because he hasn't been stretched out enough. But, I think when the season's over with, they have to let him know, hey, man, go home and prepare to come in as a starter. Now, it may not work. You may find some other pitchers along the way that may be able to step in. Because right now, when you look at this rotation, it's really a collection of back-end starters, with the exception of Sonny Gray. Everybody else has had their highs and lows. McGreevy is a guy that we're still trying to figure out as far as his youth is concerned. Palante continues to be inconsistent. Liberatore has a hard time getting out of the fourth inning. So when you look at those situations, you say to yourself, okay, why not give somebody else another look? Because you need to really have a real idea of how you want to construct this team next year, starting this year.
And with a team that has had so many struggles with consistency, trying to put together winning streaks, trying to get guys to play consistently well the entire year, it was good to see Brendan Donovan do more of the same, right? Coming off the bench, driving a triple into right field, scoring 2 runs to take the lead after being down for a couple of days. That's just what he brings to the table. And what are your feelings on him, his ability to be able to show up time and time again for this team?
Well, he's in my opinion, the best player on the team. He's the most complete player. And you look at what he does in the field. You look at what he's been able to do at the plate. And he's had his highs and lows at the plate. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's had his moments. But he gives you a professional at bat every time. And last night, considering the fact that he'd been on the bench for the last couple of days with a groin injury, for him to step up against Mejia, who was dealing at that point. Mejia had some pretty good stuff last night. And kudos to that whole Colorado. And I know their bullpen in the month of August, their ERA is over 9. But I saw a pretty impressive starter. I thought, Nick Anderson did a comparable job. Herger did a nice job. And I thought Mejia was pretty good. Now he got stung, but I think overall, you have to scratch your head and say, how does a team with those kind of arms find themselves, so far in the hole?
Yeah, that's been the issue for the Rockies for the last few years. Is it hasn't been a shortage of good players. It's just sort of been the way that things have gone, not necessarily putting them in the right place, and also not being able to keep up with the Joneses of their own division. They
Yeah,
can't keep up with the Dodgers or the Padres or the Giants. They just can't
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, you know what? It was referenced last night. If they were in a different division, who knows where they'd be? I mean, when as you just touched on, you're facing the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres that many times in your own division, it's kind of hard to crawl out of that hole. But I see some interesting young talent that I think will be good down the road. I mean, I know it's early for Carroll's. He's new to the game. Tovar is a really good shortstop. I look at Freeman. I like what he can able to do. Brenton Doyle is very solid in the outfield. Hunter Goodman, I'm not sure if he's a catcher because he can't throw anyone out, but he can swing the bat a little bit. We saw a pretty good young arm in Dolander last night. They have some interesting players. And I guess when you've been as bad as they have, Stefan, you're going to have a chance to draft fairly early. So those players should be pretty good.
Little fun aside about the Dolander family. When I was first doing college baseball, some of the first college baseball games I ever did was at a small school called Georgia Gwinnett College in the NAIA, which is the separate distinction outside of the NCAA. Chase Dolander's brother, Hunter, was the starting pitcher of that first game. So it's great to see things go full circle. Chase has been phenomenal for the Rockies. He's starting to really develop as a starting pitcher, and he will be good for years to come. But watch out for the Rockies. And again, the Cardinals winning in the way that you would like them to be winning with this group. Winning by a run, winning in slim margins. Yes, you would obviously love to see this team blow out other teams. But as it stands right now, with Nootbaar being down for the count, with Donovan not playing up until the 8th inning yesterday, you're not going to be able to score a lot of runs. It's good to see them winning the close ones.
Yeah, it was good to see him. And I give Ali a lot of credit. He went for it. I mean, they didn't have anybody else left on the bench. He used all of his subs. And they all made a real contribution. And so, yeah, you're right. Would you like to blow out Colorado? Yeah, of course you would. I mean, when you lose as many games as they have, you want to line up and make sure you get a crack at them. But I give them credit for trying to hang in there, and the Cardinals weather the storm because they stranded a ton of runners last night. I mean, a ton. And you kept thinking, here comes Colorado, and you say to yourself, okay, they take the lead. And then you say, well, there's a reason why they lost darn near 90 games, and we're about to find out, and we did.
Yeah, the youth was certainly on display, and then you bring in a veteran like Donnie to come in and stabilize things. That's good to have a player like that, and again, continues to show his value. Now, we'll take a quick step aside here and remind you that this show is powered by Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. This is Card Central 365 with Mike Claiborne, who is presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. Claibs, Nootbaar pulled from the game late yesterday because he fouled a pitch off of his knee. Now, there's no telling if he'll be out, how long he'll be out, but I want to play devil's advocate with you here. Is there someone in AAA that you would take a flyer on for Nootbaar?
No. We've seen all the AAA. And I know people want to say, well, what about Weatherholt? Well, I think they're going to start his clock next year. I'm personally would like to get a look at him just so when spring training rolls around next year, he'll have a better feel of what this looks like. But it's my understanding that's not going to happen. But other than that, we've seen everybody else. And we don't need to see anybody else who can swing from the left side of the plate. I know Koperniak is there. There's a couple other guys, but they're all left-handed hitters. So if you want to bring them up so you can get a look-see to maybe put them in a deal or maybe, see if they can outdo the people you have already in place, I get that. And we touched on this a little bit yesterday. I'm not sure who's going to come up in September of the 3 call-ups, who's going to make you that much better because we've seen virtually everybody they have that's close to being big league ready. Now, I mentioned Koperniak. Cesar Prieto is a guy I'd like to get a closer look at. Nathan Church, but he's not on the 40-man roster, so you'd have to move some people around. But they're going to bring up somebody, and they'll probably bring up another arm. I don't know what arm that might be. We don't have anybody left-handed who's good enough. So it's going to be a real head scratcher when that time rolls around on who can actually help. Now, closer to home, as you mentioned with Nootbaar, it's odd. It was an odd play because he fouled it off the outside knee, the left side of his knee on his left foot. Now, you think about how he's batting. He's facing the pitcher. It fouls off the outside part of his left knee. I mean, that's unheard of. I've never seen that before. And the severity of it, I'm sure today he's a little sore. But if I was Lars Nootbaar, I'd try and find a way to play through it. Because I think he is one of the guys that's on audition for what he looks like in this uniform or somebody else's uniform for next year.
Especially when you consider that point, right? If Nathan Church or a Koperniak or someone like that comes up, there's a good chance that they could come and perform, and you start to wonder, what is Nootbaar providing to this team? And he is certainly a good player. He's certainly a popular player, but there might be other younger, more controllable players that you have in your system that can play that role. Now we'll see how that plays out, but it just was very interesting to see. And I think my earlier question doesn't make a ton of sense in terms of the paper moves that could be made because of the reason that you already have crowding in your outfield as it is. You're already seeing Jordan Walker taking days off because you need to get Nootbaar in there consistently. If one of them goes down due to injury, that frees up a spot for those guys to play every day without question.
Well, here's the plus for Nootbaar. We're going to see two left-handers in the next 2 days, and you're going to have an off day on Thursday. So I don't know what the Yankee rotation will look like come Friday. So he technically is going to have 3 days off because of the fact that we're going to face a left-handed pitcher. So maybe that helps him be ready for the weekend. So again, we won't find out until later today the severity of it. But I would think if you can give him 3 straight days off where because of the left-handed pitching, that's got to help his situation.
And it makes it even more important to get the sweep against the Rockies, because you can survive taking 1 of 3 against the Yankees if you sweep the Rockies. If not, then you're going 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but you'd like to keep stacking those wins. And there's nothing to make you feel like the Cardinals can't beat an embattled Yankees team who's struggling with injury. They beat the Cubs 2 out of 3 and the Dodgers.
I look at it the other way. I think that they should take at least 2 of the 3 against the Yankees the way they've been playing. I mean, they've been very sloppy. The pitching has been so-so. The offense has been erratic. And defensively, they've just been a disaster. So if they can fix that between now and the weekend, so be it. But as we talked about this yesterday, I'm looking at this series, this homestand being a 7-2 homestand minimum, which means you have to sweep Colorado. And I'm thinking, hey, if you get the first one against the Yankees, why not go for it?
Absolutely. I mean, you're 3 games out of the wild card as it sits right now. The Mets are not playing well. The Giants aren't playing well. The Padres are playing okay. But it's good to see how the Cardinals have responded with this young group and all the changes that they're undergoing. How about Thomas Saggese last night? I feel like he's a player that has kind of gone under the radar. Is he going to slug 500 for you? No. But getting 3 hits in some crucial spots yesterday was good to see from number 25.
Yeah, it was good because I was at a crossroads with, who is he? What does he look like next year? Where does he play? But it was good because he was facing some guys who were bringing it last night, and he was able to get some balls up the middle. So we'll see where that takes him. He's a guy that you have to take a deep breath and take a look at, and who is he for 2026? So some interesting dynamics taking place. I think the other question here is, Nolan Gorman's having a tough week defensively, and I would think he would be the first to tell you, what does this look like going forward? He's been able to make contact a little bit better. He's drawn key walks and drove in a winning run the other night. But, man, his defense just isn't there right now. And, is that just one of those times of the season where, you have the yips more or less? Or is this who he's going to be? So that's another spotlight that's going to be put on this Cardinal team for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, and it's very seldom, not to suggest that Gorman is a gold glover at second base, but it's strange to see somebody being more comfortable at second base than at third.
Well, but he broke in as a third baseman, and I thought
Right.
that would be more of a comfortable situation with him. And let's face it, Nolan Gorman's a little bigger now than when he first started playing second base. And I think that that's got to be something he's got to think about. Am I flexible enough? Am I making the good throws? Am I getting my feet under the ball? There's a lot of things technically that you have to take a long look at with regard to what he looks like going forward. But I'm of the belief that it's just one of those weeks. Maybe he'll snap out of it. Let's hope he does, because those errors last night, the last one, that kind of opened the floodgate for Colorado. Now, granted, they only scored 2 runs, but that error came around to score.
That was certainly the catalyst, the spark that started things off for the Rockies. And it's something that I'm sure will be addressed. But right now, you don't have another option outside of maybe Sajaci. You want to get Gorman that runway that everybody's talked about. But
and also, Ali made a point yesterday that Gorman will be exclusively a third baseman and not a DH. So we're going to see the whole Nolan Gorman addition for the next few weeks.
And it makes sense because earlier in the season, he was kind of platooning. He was playing off the bench. Now you get a chance to see him every day and get him at least somewhat comfortable at a spot where he can understand that this is your spot every single day until Arenado comes back. You think that will be a little bit more freeing for him and be important for the Cardinals to take note of.
Well, let's hope so. Obviously we're at a point now where you're doing 2 things. You're chasing a playoff spot, and you're also evaluating what this team is going to look like going into the offseason and what your needs are going to be. John Mozeliak has cleared a lot of payroll off. I mean, I was looking at their numbers for next year. Without any additions, Cardinals payroll is going to be $72 million. Now, we know that's going to increase. But, there's a lot of space to do some things. Now, what do you do with that surplus? Well, do you add someone, that you think can be a difference maker in your future? Or do you sit on it and just and try and be competitive? I think that would be a disservice to the fans as well. So you have to find that middle ground on who can actually help you now and beyond. You're not trying to find somebody to put a Band-Aid on this. You're looking for somebody who is going to be part of the healing and growth process. And, whether that's a free agent or maybe through a trade, because you have a surplus of left-handed hitters. And you hope that they can continue to excel to the point where somebody else might think they're reasonably attractive, and you can move them and get you some players and maybe closer to being big league ready.
Well, we'll pick it up here in a moment. I think that's a really good point to leave on as we discuss our DraftKings promo here. Nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching baseball. And the simplest way to get on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on all the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6. And right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to Card Central 365, powered by Graybar. Claibs is brought to you by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. You just heard about DraftKings and all the amazing things going on there. You mentioned picking up some players for next year, and clearly the trade deadline is gone. It's going to be an offseason that I think many of us are going to be clamoring to see. How do they address it? How do they fix some of the holes that are in this team right now? Is there a player out there right now that feels like a realistic fit for the Cardinals? As you've seen it, you've been around this organization a long time. Is there someone, let's go with one bat and one pitcher, that you think could really help solve some problems going into the offseason and into next season in the spring.
You're talking about somebody who's not currently in the organization, right?
Not currently in the organization, no.
I'll tell you a guy who intrigued me when we saw him, and you scratch your head and wonder how he has 10 losses, was Dylan Cease with San Diego. He brings you something that you don't have within your pitching repertoire, and that's swing and miss stuff. I'd be intrigued by what it would cost to have him here. I mean, I'm not signing him to a 7-year deal or anything like that, but I think he would be an interesting guy to kick the tires on. As far as a bat is concerned, that's tricky because I have to figure out, what do I need from a hitting standpoint? Do I need somebody with more power? Yeah. And you think about the right-handed bat you have now. You have Herrera, you have Contreras. I don't know about Arenado's situation for next year. He's obviously under contract. So you hope you don't go into another season with that cloud over your head. So that means you're going to need another right-handed bat. And where that comes from, I'm not sure because, again, we can only look at free agents as we speak. You never know when the general manager meetings take place later this year, how that might light the fire and see who is really available from the right side. So that's something I'd probably have to think about a little bit because I don't want to just be free agent driven. Free agency, man, it's a sink or swim. You don't want to buy too much pitching and be stuck with it. And the best example I look at is Aaron Nola with Philadelphia. I mean, he signed to a long-term deal and they're owing him a lot of money for a few years. And between the injuries and his ineffectiveness, that's a deal you just look at and say, who thought this was a good idea? So you have to be careful about how you acquire pitching. But more importantly, when it comes to a right-handed bat, I think what I'm selling is, hey, you look like you need a left-handed hitter in your lineup, and we may have one for you. I think that's the approach that I'm going to take in the offseason because I'm not sure if there's enough internally from what I've seen that's going to be a legitimate difference maker come 2026 within the organization. You hope that you get some pitching return, whether it's Hens or Quinn Matthews, Cooper Jerpy. He probably won't be available to you until mid-season. You have some other young arms. Roby's going to be out next year, so you can't count on him. So Roberta is a guy that you might think may be available to you at some part during the year, but the guys I just mentioned don't really have legitimate big league experience. So you don't want to have too many kids in the shopping cart. So you have to figure out how you balance that out with maybe a veteran here or there. And you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to find another veteran in the bullpen who has closing experience. I've said this countless times. I think today's game, the way we use bullpens, you need to have two guys who know how to close. And one guy learning on the job is just too risky if you think you can't compete.
Well, somebody in the comments made a really good point, and I'm trying to find exactly who it was, but they said Shelby Miller will be a free agent next year. He got paid $1 million. Look at where he is right now, and was extremely effective for the Diamondbacks, extremely effective for the Brewers so far. I mean, if you're trying to go cheap, that's maybe a good place to look if you're the Cardinals and see what Shelby Miller might be able to do for you. And again, you never know. I think one of the big things that you mentioned there were all the names in AAA that we didn't get to see this year. And that's one of the downsides of having a team that has been more successful than I think many expected them to be. If the Cardinals were getting blown out, if they were dead last in the division and they were playing for nothing, you probably would have seen all those guys. You probably would have seen them take a look and say, hey, all right, it doesn't matter, win, lose, or draw. We're going to figure out what exactly we have. But because they were very good for the majority of the season, you just haven't been afforded the opportunity to see those guys.
Yeah, I was looking at a stat yesterday. I think the Cardinals have had the second fewest injuries on their big league roster in all of baseball, which means there wasn't a lot of movement to get a good look at some other players. And the ones you really were anticipating and seeing, well, they got hurt. So it's really been kind of a logjam of you flatline more or less. I mean, you didn't grow, you didn't regress, and you don't know what you still have, what you have. And this was supposed to be the year of evaluation. I mean, yeah, there's some guys that we can probably say, I'm not sure if he's a good fit. Or there's a guy you say to yourself, okay, I've seen enough of him to know where he fits on my roster. but we never had that chance to see some of the young pitching. And I think that's something that when you look at this organization, that's the most dire need of anything you have. You don't have enough. As I mentioned earlier, we have a collection of mid to back end starters. And I don't know if you can win a lot of games with that kind of setup. And they all do the same thing. We don't have any swing and miss. Sonny gives you more swing and miss than anyone else. But everybody else, they pitch to contact, man. And you know what? There was a time when pitch to contact was in vogue. Not anymore.
That's one of the ebbs and flows of the game. I remember a decade ago, we're chasing swing and miss, and then it started to revert back to pitch to contact, and now it's starting to go back to swing and miss. So we will see how the Cardinals add to that in their arsenal or in their rotation. Let's finish up talking briefly about game number 2 against the Rockies. Kyle Freeland, who is 2-12 against Matthew Liberatore, and to have 2 wins and 12 losses is difficult to do. Now you could say that the Rockies are struggling. I believe the number is they're on their 5th 8-game losing streak. They've snapped every single losing streak that they've had at 8 games. So the Rockies might be the favorite to win this game, believe it or not, if you're playing the odds. But to go 2-12, I mean, that has to mean just no run support for this starting pitcher.
Yeah, they keep running him out there. So his stuff might be reasonably good. But, when you're in Colorado, man, it doesn't work. Along with this, I don't know whether you heard about this or not, Stefan, but the Cardinals have had some problems with left-handed pitching this year. And, Freeland is that sort of guy where if you give him a run or two early, and he can frustrate you. I'm anxious to see what Ollie's lineup looks like tonight. I'm sure Walker will be in there. So JC obviously will be there. I would think Donovan would be available tonight and Burleson, obviously. But you don't really have a lot of options. The last time we were in this situation was on Friday evening against Boyd. And, Ollie stacked the bottom of the lineup. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I thought we were playing in the big leagues because it would look more like a AAA bottom end of the batting order. And lo and behold, they end up scoring most of the runs that particular night. I don't know if you can do that every night. But when you don't have many options, I guess this is what you go with.
I think that's a very fair way of putting it. And whatever the game plan has been, it's been working for the Cardinals staff. And it's been working with maybe a shorthanded group. You don't have Arenado. You don't have some of your mainstay guys that have been in these situations. But the young guys are coming out to play, as you've mentioned time and time again. They're playing where their feet are. They're playing whoever the opponent is. It doesn't really matter. They're playing that game that day and don't seem to be focusing on too much more than that.
No, and that's the way you have to approach it now. You can't look down the road. You can't say, well, what are we going to do against the Yankees? No, you better figure out what you're going to do in your next at bat against Colorado. You better figure out what you're going to do your next inning against Colorado and not worry about tomorrow. You have to worry about tonight. And I think sometimes in the times I bet Colorado's beaten teams kind of looked ahead. Didn't disrespect them, but just looked ahead. And the next thing you know, they score a run here, they score 2 more there, and you know how things work in their ballpark, where no lead is safe. But now they're on the road, and maybe they feel like they can play even Steven with more teams, and that's something you got to be concerned about. So I don't think they're going to overlook what's going on, and I think dodging that bullet last night certainly will be a wake-up call to some, and go out and let's see if you can score early and often.
Yeah, that would have been a very frustrating loss for the Cardinals faithful. Now you're 2 games above 500. You can start to stack some wins, especially against some struggling teams down the stretch. We'll see if the Cardinals can do it. The first pitch will be at 6:45 Central Time. Matthew Liberatore takes the ball for the Cardinals. The final thing I want to ask you is, what are you looking for out of Libby?
6 innings?
Yeah.
Minimum?
Jekyll and Hyde out of him this year.
Yes, minimum 6 innings. I mean, this is a big, strong guy who prides himself on conditioning and being able to throw every day. It just seems like he gets gassed early and really goes back to the old Libby where he was nibbling instead of going after hitters. And once he decides when he wants to go after hitters, because his stuff is good enough. But, you can't, as John Rooney would say, pick. You go after these guys. Listen, this isn't an all-star team you're facing. Now, the challenge is they're all young free swingers. I mean, they lead the league in strikeouts as a team, and they lead the league in fewest walks as a team. So what does that tell you? They like to swing the bat. So you have to make sure they do more chasing than squaring you up.
sometimes throwing more strikes than balls is a bad thing. If you're too in the zone, you can get punished. If you're not in the zone enough, you can get punished. It's one of the maddening things about being a major league pitcher. Well, Claibs, thank you so much for joining us here on Card Central 365. Claibs is presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. This is Card Central 365, powered by Graybar. All content on STL Sports Central is provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Cardinals look to get the series win against the Rockies and continue their winning ways at home. Thank you so much for joining us and for everyone involved in our production. Get involved in the conversation, and we will have the post-game coverage for you, hopefully after a Game 2 win for St. Louis.